Hey guys, Greg from Semi Crazy here, and welcome to part 2 of the interior walkthrough. We had so much information from the first one, we had to make it into a second part. So, check it out.
So this is just a dealer thing we do. We got this high idle switch here. So I'm just going to go through the idling procedure here. Let's step on the clutch on this guy. So the best way to idle this truck is using your cruise switches. So you got to enable it and then hit the SL button. You see, that's all we get out of here is 900 RPM.
Yeah.
For most generally idling reasons, that's all you should use because we've got auto elevate enabled. Okay? This switch here is for the quickest way to kick this down and just release the brakes. It's very, very convenient. My first setting is 1000 RPM. If I rock it on and off, we've got 1250 set. 1550, and depending on how they set up the parameters, I can still adjust it with these switches as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the purpose of that though is to put the truck in a PTO operation, meaning you're driving something, the engine's still working.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why it's bad for just a tractor or to idle overnight is we've turned off auto elevate. So let's say for instance, again, it's winter time, and maybe you have a problem with keeping the engine warm even at 900 RPM. It could be a thermostat problem, but using that will get you a little more temperature so that you're comfortable. You can do that, but just understand that auto elevate's turned off. We're not protecting our after treatment. It's still, the engine doesn't have any load.
Yeah.
So the best use for what you're doing is maybe to air up a trailer because you can speed it up a little quicker.
Okay, yeah.
So for most reasons, you shouldn't need to use that. The other thing is if you have had that on, if I release the brakes, it's going to go to idle, and that's where it becomes over convenient because when I pull the brake, if that switch is on, it's just going to idle right back up. But I don't have anything in writing. We have seen it cause a problem with doing it on highway regen. And the reason for that is that's an input to the computer. So it sees it going down the road, but yet it also sees an input saying it's in PTO mode. And it may confuse the system. So
I
want to
gotcha.
keep that off if we're driving down the road.
Okay.
I haven't heard one in a while, but I don't know if that's our training that we've done, but I know earlier engines it did affect it. Operating tips. So a lot of information, but again, it covers why we don't idle, things like that.
Why you run at low RPM.
Yeah, so downsped engines, that's really important for this DD16. When we get above 1800 RPM, the engine is dirty, meaning we got a lot more soot happening, and I have seen it plug the DOC on some trucks. So if we were to look at the torque curve on this engine and horsepower curve, when you get to 1800 RPM, both torque and horsepower drop like a rock.
Yeah.
So if you're driving it consistently above 1800 RPM, it's just wasting fuel. You got no power. So we do run into the odd guy, maybe logging, let's say, where you're constantly doing this and running the hills. It's because they slow down really fast. So that's why they'll run it up there. Probably for what you do, that's not needed.
No,
but
I've logged before, but so I understand what you mean, yeah.
So they used to have like heavy haul programs or HRP programs that move that torque and stuff up. They don't have those for Detroit engines. So just try and avoid it if you can.
Yeah. Well, and even so, like, I mean, you only needed to actually run it up. If you're going through a dip and then pulling a hill right away, well, then you might want to run it up to speed, like to 2100. It's going to drop down fast anyways. So, I mean, you've got, if you run it up to 2100, the only reason you're doing that is because you're going to grab two gears, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
and then you can pull it all the way to 1,000, and then you might run it up again to up there, just so that because you're going to take, if you take them one at a time, you're going to spin out.
Yeah, that's right.
Otherwise, it's But I mean, on the highway, you should never have to.
That's right. So basically, a specialized case, but we do run into the odd guy that thinks it's okay. And it's not.
Yeah,
we have seen 2 occasions where it's plugged that DOC, and in some cases, if it's bad enough, there's 2 ways we can clear it out. One was using the software. It does that what they call a low temp regen, but for 4 hours. And if that doesn't work, we can use an air system to try and backflow it, and if that doesn't work, that one box is coming off.
And those are what, 10 grand?
15-ish.
Oh yeah,
all at 10, depending where you're at.
Yeah,
including the labor and stuff. But
yeah,
sometimes sensors don't come out, and it just keeps adding more costs. So again, it's just the education. If you understand that that's what can happen, generally you will remember that and try and avoid it.
Yeah, you betcha.
Okay. So I gave a little information on duty cycles, and basically is what I talked about. So this actually is a really interesting sheet. Remember I was talking about idle percent? Here it says less than 40.
Yeah.
And then I said the CSC would say less than 30, and I say less than 10, because I would rather see you make money rather than burn it in the engine and not do any work. So, but for me, that tells me that they've made some improvements, but I still would shy away from saying, idle it for 40%. Well, you're just wasting your own money. So, so there's a whole lot of factors when it comes to duty cycle. Usually, off-highway trucks that are running PTO always fall in a bad duty cycle. But if you look at, let's say, a dump truck that's working in a pit today, they're not getting up to speed, and then tomorrow maybe they're on the highway. This is just good to know that I want to try and keep my speed between 40 and 65, keep the drive load above 30%. When they're talking vehicle histograms, we can look at how much time is above 30 mile an hour. So really, they're not values that are unattainable. No. It's easy to get to this stuff. So if you're the type of guy that likes looking at data and figuring out where you're running the engine, this is a good sheet to use. So I found that just the other day, so that's why I included it in here. Just gives you a little more education and helps you understand what's going on.
Like you said, I tagged some of my pages in there even. Yeah. And then highlighted some stuff myself.
So the coolant in here is important. So I'm going to flip to the page where it shows what coolants are allowed. So everything's highlighted as oat. The other stuff is conventional, except
I highlighted the ones that I figured that I would
see. Yeah.
And I was familiar with and that were approved. Kind of that's where I.
So the rub with this is this 93K 217 is for DD series engines, and some people you may refer to 93K 17. That's for Series 60. So you'll go to a truck stop and you pick up a jug, like Turbo Power is one of the most common ones. Yeah. And you read the back, says approved for the Detroit diesel. I got Detroit. Yeah, but that's for Series 60, not DD15. They don't differentiate. Yeah. That's why they came out with this short list of what's good. Okay? Yeah. I know you read this, and we're very anal about what coolants we use, so it does cause engine damage if you're using the wrong stuff. Yeah. These coolants have is something called carboxylate. That's what protects the aluminum, where the ones like Turbo Power that says meant for 60, it doesn't have much aluminum in it. That one won't have carboxylate in it. Yeah. And that's when you get grief. So the coolant itself, the maintenance on it can get quite deep to figure out exactly where you fall in. But the important thing is it's roughly every 2 years. So in the first 2 years, there's an out of the package you just pour in. And then in the fourth year, you replace it. If you're a super high mileage guy, that would be obviously sooner. Yeah. But most trucks follow under that every 2 year type of thing. Yeah. The best thing to do, and it's actually in the manual, is do a coolant sample annually. Take a sample, send it to a place that does samples, they'll tell you whether it's good or not. And the reason for that is where we live, who doesn't add coolant every now and then, right? So
True.
you're putting some of that additive package back in there. Where am I actually sitting? So I don't know what it costs, maybe $50 to get a sample done. You may be able to extend that another year so that you're not making your costs higher by doing a change. So it's money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like oil samples.
Yeah.
So then I included some pictures of how this stuff should look like. The bad one is what we see is precipitate. See, it's cloudy.
Oh, yeah.
Can't really see. So that's the LBD going off right now.
Yeah.
It's going to turn your bunk lights off. So just a little bit more education for you to understand it. And that's basically what we sell here is that final charge extender. So probably more information than you need, but information's good. DD16 engine. Oil changes are primarily based on what kind of mileage you get. So remember that idling the engine reduces your miles per gallon. That's still unburnt fuel. That's still all engines have some blow by, and that's what contaminates the oil.
Yeah.
So the less you run the engine, the longer Ks you get out of oil, okay? So it's good to try and figure out where you fall in as far as fuel mileage. Now, even these engines, even in the most severe duty cycle, so like stop and go traffic, like a garbage truck, it would be 750 hours, and lots of guys are back in the day it was 250 hours.
Yeah.
And, wow, 500, wow, that's a long way out. Well, 750 hours is quite far. Now we do have guys with 5700s and DD13s going as what DD13 could go up to 105,000 kilometers for oil change, and it's all based on
miles per gallon
fuel mileage. So when it comes to the oil filter, the oil and the fuel filters, try and figure out what your mileage is, and you can bump that.
Yeah.
And always do a oil sample when you do those things, because you can see a trend happen. If there's something going on in the engine, you can see, well, maybe I need to move my oil change around.
So if you guys are doing the oil changes, do you offer that just as part of a package?
It's part of our package.
Oh, okay.
So we have a lube special. You get your oil changed, your fuel filters. The one on the frame is separate. You have to ask for that. You get an oil sample, and they grease the truck.
Yeah.
So anything else, which we'll get into the other, you would have to tell us.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard for us to, and some people think this, oh, well, it's this mileage. You want to flag us when that's due. The reason why we can't do that is we just can't track everybody's severity level.
Yeah.
Because it all depends on what you use the truck for.
Yeah, your duty cycle is different. Everybody has a different duty cycle.
Yeah. So the other things that happen is the first valve set is done at 160,000 kilometers. Don't do it at 100. You may actually call here and they will say 100. They've just been saying that for 30 years.
Yeah.
But it's still not broke into 160. So you're getting a valve set done when the engine's still not broke in.
Yeah.
So wait that 160. If it never sees any dust ever again, the next valve set is at 800,000 kilometers. That'd be one I would maybe bend a bit myself. But the first one's done at 160, and we usually get a report saying, yeah, the mileage got a lot better and the power's better. So that's the break-in time. It's a long time.
Yeah. Well, tolerances and everything are tighter now than they were, and it's a different time, right? It's not like an old 4 1/4 cat.
No.
You got it hot and seated the rings, and it's different. It's just totally different.
It's different stuff. There's different materials.
Yeah, you're also not doing main bearings at
Yeah, we don't do that anymore. There's no set time for
bearing rolls.
So there is interval for belts and stuff like that. All this other stuff is always inspect air system, air cleaner, exhaust system, air compressor. So this is a GHG 17 engine. So you should have a check engine light come on. It's around 11,000 hours or 800,000 kilometers when a DPF needs changing for ash.
Yeah.
That's what's left after a regen. The DEF pump filter is done, GHG, every 3 years or 500,000 miles.
So 800K.
Yeah. These other things are older engines. They just haven't updated this. And then the list of the approved oils. There are no zero weights. The engine comes from the factory with 1030. And if you go a little lighter, the reason why they come with 1030 is try to get a better fuel mileage.
Yeah.
So most guys stick with that 1030. Gives you about 0.2% better fuel mileage, but it's worth it. Then there's your belt routing if you ever have it flip off on you, and the procedure. I'm not sure if I put both in. There's 2 different tensioners now, but how to change that.
Yeah.
I now include this thermostat operating mode because we've ran into a couple of situations we've educated a lot of guys now just to run at that 900 RPM, but some guys are waking up cold.
Yeah. So
this is a little information to try and figure if you actually have a thermostat problem.
Oh, okay.
So GHG 14 engines, they didn't want you to run a winter front because they didn't have an ambient air temp sensor for the engine. So this truck has one. It's a GHG 7. You see it just poking out below that mirror.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the sensor for the engine. This one doesn't have a temp sensor for outside, does it? Sometimes we have a gauge here that reads the outside air temp. That's standalone. Some guys think it works together.
Is that one? No, that's clock.
That's clock. But what I'm driving to is because we have an ambient air temp sensor, you can now want to rent a front. And we were talking with Detroit a couple of weeks ago. We had that exact problem where a guy was following the rules and running it at 900 RPM, but yet he was feeling cold when it's minus 20. Threw the winter front on and it changed things. So yeah, these engines do run a lot hotter. I get a lot of phone calls and what's that? 220. Yeah, wait 1 more degree, the fan will come on. So yeah, you will see that fan's going to run a little hotter. It'll go into a silent derate at 226. So that means it'll start to defuel the engine. And then at 234, the check engine lamp comes on, and 237 the stop engine light comes on. I have not heard of this happening. I'm sure it's happened somewhere. It's just I haven't experienced it. The minimum rad cap pressure is 15 psi, so if you have to change your rad cap, it's 15 pounds. And on this one, it's a threaded on one. It's got the coolant tank on. There's a bar in the way. It's there's a cap on the top and one on the side.
Yeah. The
one on the side is the pressure cap.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So just so you know, and maximum tank pressure is 29 psi. That's important if you're trying to troubleshoot a failed head gasket, which I've never seen one of these engines fail a head gasket, unless it's been deleted. Minimum oil pressures. So at idle with an engine at operating temperature is 10.15 psi. I get a lot of calls that, it's at 20. That's fine. So just prove
everybody's
proof of
way.
the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't recommend any fuel additive other than this Eco Clean. But if it was me and I had gel fuel, I'm going to put something in there so I can get the engine running.
Yeah.
Would I use it on a regular basis? No, it's not needed. But if you want to use something on a regular basis, that's it. And there's your dosage for it.
Most of the fuels here are all winter fuel. So
yeah, we started blending them in September.
Yeah.
We've had a few trucks coming up here in the winter last year.
From south,
and they end up stopping because they don't have winter fuel in them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally.
You guys gel up.
That's never a good feeling.
So now we get into the transmission. So you're probably line haul, you're 800,000 kilometers on that oil change. And then
I checked the spec. Everything was filled with synthetic too. So.
Yeah. I haven't seen mineral oil in anything.
No, everything we bring is synthetic.
Yeah.
The transmission now runs 40 weight. You can still use 50, but the reason why it's 40 weight is again a lighter
fuel
economy. The rear ends still have 7590.
Yeah.
And then there's a list of those oils and brand names and all that stuff. Same thing with the rear axle. Nothing technology changed much there. How to change your filters. So behind, these are heater air filters.
Yeah.
Behind this panel, you got 2 plastic plugs on the right and then 1 screw in the very bottom. And then on the right side, you'll see a bar with a 10 mil head bolt. Pull that out and get those filters out.
Oh, okay.
The ones for the bunk, you got to pull this drawer out
Oh, okay.
So there's two little levers. One's going to go up and the other side's going to go down. Pull that drawer out, and you'll see the filters in this box.
Oh, okay.
Stick right, you can see them right away. The one thing I'm going to say about this, don't load it very heavy. It will pop out of those slides. So it's almost through. Okay, so the chassis maintenance, you've got that manual right there.
Yep.
So it is a pain to read. Did you go through this part?
I did.
So you're probably going to be long haul just by the way we're talking. So you're going to be in service schedule 2. Then this gives you a short breakdown of what that is at what time. Now the one important thing here is this it's called IM, initial maintenance, right here. So we haven't been, you're the first guy I'm teaching this one about. This is something that we ran into. The initial maintenance list is very archaic. It actually has you change transmission fluids and stuff like that. If you look at the 8 manual, it's like, no, it's the first one's at 800,000.
Yeah.
So obviously,
some of this stuff, no.
Some of this stuff, no. But the one important thing is frame torque, especially the bolts that hold the alignment shims in. So that's everything on the airliner bushings. The shims aren't super hard. They can flatten out. It's important that initial maintenance gets done.
Yeah.
They may not find anything.
What was the number on that?
So for you, it's going to be 20,000 kilometers.
Okay.
So your long haul. So yeah, that's a good one too. It's going to be before the oil change. I mean, there's not going to be any thing like that. There shouldn't be any consumables. Maybe a cab air filter. I'm not going to say it is, but the important thing is the frame torques and stuff like that. That stuff does loosen up.
Well, yeah, and alignment's super, like, that's super important on a ton of things. Like, people don't realize how a little bit of alignment can throw everything out of whack, kill your tire wear, your
fuel mileage, tire wear.
Yeah. All
the costs just increase when you got something out of whack there.
Yeah.
Now the rest of it is I've tried to make it as simple to read as what's my next steps. A lot of the stuff in the maintenance manual for the chassis is people just, well, I've never done that, you know. Things like power steering is one of the big ones. Nobody just, it's time for an oil change on there. But there is an interval for it. It's your money, it's your truck. Do what you want. I come from a trucking family too. One of my dad's trucks, I remember him saying, I've never changed those rear ends oils. I have 1.6 million on them. Well, yeah, they're loose. But, you know, I mean, some guys can get away with stuff. The important thing here is, if you think there's an interval for it, it's going to be in the book. If you've got like 500,000 miles on it and the first interval was 20,000, well, maybe you just should have a look at it. That's kind of what I want to say, because some people want to follow that to a T, and that is like 0.5% of the people.
Yeah.
And other people just want to follow what they need because they've been doing it for a long time.